What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about Ferrari. So let's get into that. So Ferrari is Michael Mann's newest film, starring Adam Driver as Enzo Ferrari and Penelope as Laura Ferrari. And basically the premise of the story is Ferrari is starting to get bankrupt, and they're trying to find out different ways to kind of regain that money. And one of the only ways they have is by winning this 1,000-mile long race. But in the mix of all that, trying to build a car to win those races, Ferrari also has a whole situation going on with his wife, as well as with another female that he is with, and a kid that they have. And he's kind of in between this couple different relationships. He's in between all that drama with those relationships between his wife and this other girl that he's with, and his kid, and his wife not knowing about the kid, and just a bunch of different situations that Enzo is kind of going throughout his life, dealing with the bankruptcy of Ferrari, dealing with his wife, dealing with his kid, and trying to balance it all out so that he doesn't go bankrupt and Ferrari doesn't go bankrupt as well. I would say I was pretty excited to see this movie when I first saw the trailer. It looked like it was going to be a pretty exciting, riveting movie, very similar to like Ford versus Ferrari or like Rush, even something like, recently like Gran Turismo. And it's not exactly like that, right? There's still racing and car stuff to be had, but it focused a lot more on Enzo's life than it did the motorsport aspect. And that does get shown here, sprinkled in throughout the entire movie. It cuts over to them having like practice sessions, to them building the car, to, crashes, and then to the final race towards the third act. And it does sprinkle it in, so it's good to kind of see the cars going around, but the majority of the movie is very dialogue heavy, and it focuses a lot more on Enzo. Even when it cuts to like the motorsport aspects, it's a kind of like a minute, 2-minute clip, but it shows more of Enzo Ferrari. You'll see the cars passing by while he's watching them. You're not really focusing too much on the cars actually racing until you kind of get to the third act and you get to that final race. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the positives for me. And the number one positive is the casting of Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz. I think both of them did an amazing job depicting their characters, especially Penelope. I think she did an amazing job having a lot of emotion and heart to her character. And definitely she's kind of going through a lot. So when you see her get angry, it's for certain reasons, right? Adam Driver as Enzo, he's a lot more methodical, doesn't really say much. He kind of has one expression on his face the entire movie. Even there's times where tragedy happens and he doesn't really react like a normal person would react. So he did a very good job, I think, depicting Enzo, but Penelope Cruz did a even better job, more exceptional job depicting Laura Ferrari. So I really, really enjoyed the casting between them two, and just overall the casting overall, from all the side characters, the racers, all the drivers, mechanics, they all did a pretty well job. So there's no fault in the acting here. I think they all did an amazing job. I think also visually this movie looks pretty amazing. All the car sequences, apart for some kind of CGI crashes here or there, that's blatantly obvious when you kind of look at it. The shots are filmed pretty nicely, and even just the more simpler shots of kind of zooming in and out between Enzo Ferrari and Laura, or just looking at the track, or just different areas within this kind of city, it's shot pretty beautifully. So I really enjoyed that as well. And I enjoyed some of the racing sequences. I'll get a little bit more into that, into like the cons and stuff, but there was some aspects of it where it got pretty intense, and there were some pretty horrific crashes that kind of, make you hold your breath, and you're just like, oh damn, that just happened. So there's certain sequences that are pretty intense and riveting while you're watching these race sequences, but for the most part, it's kind of a hit or miss, which I'll get into a little bit more later. And lastly, I kind of really just enjoyed the underlying story that kind of is going on throughout the entire film. Again, it focuses a lot on Enzo Ferrari and seeing him having to balance between trying to build a car to win this race, balance with his wife and balance with his other female and his kid. And you're seeing a lot more of the background aspects of his life. So that whole kind of part of the movie I actually really enjoyed, and I didn't mind too much that there wasn't as many race sequences, because the actual story itself was captivating enough to keep me watching. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into the cons. And the number one con for me, I think, is the racing. While, like I said previously, there were some aspects of it that were pretty intense, pretty crazy to see what was going on screen. A lot of it wasn't that thrilling like I was hoping it was gonna be. Stuff like, again, like Gran Turismo that we saw earlier this year, or Ford versus Ferrari, or just any other racing movie that you kind of feel the car, you feel the rawness of the engine and the driving and kind of the bumper to bumper action and all that stuff. I felt like that was kind of missing, and those sequences were unfortunate that was missing, because those are supposed to capture you. While the story is interesting enough, when it cuts to those racing actions, you want it to capture you, and it didn't always capture me. It'll cut to a sequence and you'll hear the engine roaring, and it's just them going in a straight line, and they're kind of just in there, and they're not really fighting in the race, trying to take positions and stuff, and it just wasn't as intense as I was hoping it to be. So I think it kind of fell short in the racing aspect of the story. And I felt like there was a lot of moments that were kind of slow paced. For only a 2 hour and 11-minute runtime, it felt a lot longer than that. It felt like a 3 hour long movie. So it's an enjoyable enough movie where it can keep you in your seat, keep you captured enough. But if I felt like it didn't flow properly, didn't have a proper through line to a lot of the sequences, where it feels slow paced. There's certain scenes that I feel like are too extended, and it just felt like the movie was longer than what it had to be. Like, this movie felt like it could have been captured within an hour, 30-minute long movie. But even with the 2 hour long runtime, it just felt a little too extended for whatever reason. There was just something about it that was too slow paced, and the flow of the sequences wasn't always perfect, to where it just felt like you were sitting there for a very, very long time, and I really felt that. And lastly, I just kind of felt like it didn't really wrap up all that well. When the scene was happening, when the ending scene, I could tell that this was the end. I was like, all right, this is gonna be the final scene, but it just felt kind of lackluster. It didn't wrap up that well, and the sequences to get to the end just seemed like it was just kind of phasing out the movie, and it wasn't a satisfying ending, completely. So overall, I think the movie did its job pretty well. It has some faults in pacing and some through lines and sequences, but it fell short. It just had a couple of misfires for me, unfortunately, and I was really excited for this movie. But let me know what you guys thought about Ferrari. Have you seen it yet? It was pretty interesting enough. It definitely merits a second watch, in my opinion. I think if I watch it again, I might appreciate it a lot more. But I want to hear what you guys think about the movie. If you guys enjoyed it, leave your comments down in the comment section below. And again, if you guys like talking about anything movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next review. Thank you.